Welcome to the Bear Cave. We are going to be doing our post-game reaction a little late. We usually do it right after the game. We're going to do it the day after. But honestly, did we even need to talk about it yesterday? We knew what the game was, and just kind of instant reaction, Dobbs. Not a great game from Caleb Williams. He didn't have much help. He's not absolved of blame. And, you know, I think maybe the Bears needed this game because in reality, I don't agree with the fact that Ryan Poles should be back next year. If you look at his track record, his one job this year was to put the rookie quarterback in position to succeed. Now, regardless what you feel about Caleb Williams, whether you feel like he is the franchise quarterback, whether you feel like he's a bum and they should have kept Fields, no matter what you think about that scenario, the situation is there is a rookie quarterback who was not put in a position to succeed. Now, you can argue, okay, look, he's got Rome Odunze, he's got DJ Moore, he's got Keenan Allen. There was multiple scenarios yesterday where those guys were not helping their quarterback out. There was multiple scenarios yesterday where Caleb Williams didn't have a chance as soon as the ball was snapped. The O-line is abysmal. The coaching has been even more abysmal somehow. And this is all falls at the feet of Ryan Poles, who has been here for 3 years, and the Chiefs have more wins this year than he does in his career as a GM. This is malpractice to the highest extent, and you are in the process of possibly destroying another quarterback. And Bears fans know it all too well. I think if they get the hire right, there's some optimism. But as long as Ryan Poles is the GM, I don't have any faith that the Bears go anywhere as a franchise.
No, it's perfectly well said, Hunter. And it's just, frankly, it is. It's just, this is just depressing because, like we said, like just to, again, drive it more immediate reaction at the game and then move on. We'll get to like a general discussion where we just have to go on another week just at the structure of this franchise. But I mean, I'm just sitting there last night and I'm like, okay, Caleb making plays in the clutch, but we just knew deep down it was like they already only scored 3 points. Some way, somehow they're going to find a way to mess it up and only have 3 points when the defense finally wanted to show up and allow only 6, which will be the last time this year, surely. This was the last time we're getting an opportunity like this. And it's just, you knew the immediate reaction was going to be. It's all Caleb's fault. We're back to the Justin Fields. We should have built around Justin Fields narrative. I'm just ready to shut down social media at this point because I just can't with people. But again, like you said, it's not that Caleb's result of all blame. Far from it. He had a bad game. But the reality of the situation is that more times than not, when he has a good game, it's the complete opposite on defense. Of course, the one time we get the opposite when the defense wants to show up. But again, I mean, it's just depressing. But more than just that, again, now back to the general discussion, because really it's like at this point, what is there to say about the Bears? The running game's non-existent every week. Therefore, it all falls on Caleb's shoulders as a rookie. It's just a horrible combination. Thomas Brown is so clearly not the guy. We already knew that. I mean, it's like that's the thing is there's really not much to even discuss from that angle. I mean, again, back to just reality, Hunter. For whatever reason, a lot of these media people and a lot of people in the NFL media seem to be leaning towards the fact that Poles, for some reason, has earned his right to stay and that, he's navigating his way through a rebuild. But as we've talked about, from the Bears fans' perspective eyes, this was supposed to be the year the rebuild ended. And even if the Bears didn't finish as a wild card team, which would have been best case scenario, at least finish with 7-8 wins was the bare minimum. It wasn't to have another year of a full-blown, we have to scrap down the entire defense, rebuild a majority of the offensive line. That was far from what the expectation was and it is now. So the fact that a lot of people want to kind of cover Poles' tail and be like, I think he has another year behind him. No, again, Hunter, it sets up the same cycle of dysfunction. Let's bring in a new coach. And then, it's the GM's problem. And then the GM's out if they don't have a great year right away. And then the new, it's just there's no cohesion. Everybody needs a fresh start. New GM, new coach. Ben Johnson is interested. As we went back to before, Hunter, I always keep going back to Ben Johnson's made it pretty clear. I want cohesion with the front office, a.k.a. get that fake fraud, take the North back. King.
That is so bad. I guess my thing is I'm just so over I mean, I think a lot of Bears fans are just very over hearing the same thing over and over again. While I do think that the McCaskies, are willing to put a shitty football team out on the field, I think they were genuinely embarrassed by what happened on Thanksgiving with Matt Eberflus and why they broke a 100-year streak. They were chanting "sell the team."
Finally.
And I don't know if that, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm naive to this, but I don't know if that's ever happened at a Bears game before, especially at home on national television. And to me, I don't think the McCaskies like to be embarrassed like that. And that has happened twice this season. The Bears are going to have an 11-game losing streak and a 14-game losing streak under Ryan Poles in 3 years. If I'm Kevin Warren, there's no way I'm allowing Ryan Poles. And the thing that sucks so much about this game is there's actually nothing to talk about from the game outside of Caleb Williams had some nice throws. There's still a lot of confusion going on in week 16, and that shouldn't be happening. It is coaching malpractice. I do think there is a chance that Ben Johnson comes in and says, I will coach here, but we need a new GM. And I don't think the Bears are going to hold on to Ryan Poles if that's the case. And if I'm Ben Johnson, maybe Ben Johnson is the savior of all this. Maybe the Bears want Ben Johnson so bad that they will move on from Ryan Poles. And that would be great because I don't want Ryan Poles anymore. Like, I was a big Poles supporter early on, but now when you look back on it, why the fuck did they trade Khalil Mack? I don't care about the contract. I don't care. I really don't. Because it's like, I would rather have Roquan Smith than Tremaine Edmonds and TJ Edwards. I would rather have Khalil Mack. Like, can you imagine this team with Khalil Mack and Roquan Smith? Like, they wouldn't be that great, but it's like you have $80 million in cap space. Like, I get it if you were going to go out and spend and go out and draft, like, better, but you haven't. You have $80 million year 3. Like, you have $80 million year 3, and this team is so far behind. So I don't understand his plan. He's talked about the trenches, which he has neglected. Like, I was in an argument the other day on Twitter, and, I don't want to pay Robert Hunt $100 million because it's an overpay, because that's what the Panthers paid him.
Right.
If your quarterback is allowed to develop and have time as a rookie and not have to worry about the play being dead from the snap because there's a defender in his lap within a second of the ball being snapped, and you allow that guy to develop into a franchise quarterback because he's protected, that's fucking priceless. I don't care about the overpay. Caleb Williams is going to be here a long time, a lot longer than Robert Hunt would ever be. And I'm not saying Robert Hunt, he had to go get him, but the point is, why the fuck are you so stingy with this money? Like, why the fuck are you so concerned about this cap? Like, I understand you don't want to put your team in a bad cap space, but you're getting your franchise killed. Like, who cares about the cap? Who cares about that at this point? Like, if you fail to develop this guy, you're going to be back at square one.
Well, to that point, Hunter, I'm actually glad you brought that up because I was just talking to some people about this recently. That's actually one of the biggest problems with the Bears. I say this all the time for competitive teams. I mean, Lord knows some teams more than the others. Sometimes they overshoot it. Shout out to the Saints. But look, you should always be hovering right around the fringe of the cap. You should not have millions left over that you didn't spend that season. If you're trying to be a competitive team, I get it from the angle if you have a rebuild you're trying to do, right? All that type of stuff. But again, back to the point of the Bears this year, the Bears were not a team that was attempting to rebuild, right? Best case scenario would have been like, okay, Bears sneak in wild card, Caleb Williams, right? He led them there, and now we can have all this extra cap that we have in upcoming years regardless. We would have had Freed. That was kind of the narrative, right? It shouldn't have been like, let's leave as much money on the table as possible and then navigate, because you can sign guys to 1-year deals, 2-year deals where you can cut them the next year. It doesn't have to be all in 5-6-year deals. So, again, and even if all that money was just in the trenches on guys that would have been able to play rotational roles or backup roles for the young guys that haven't been able to step up, like the healthy scratch yesterday. You see what I'm saying here, Hunter? Money should be in areas like that. But anyways, it's kind of like so many things I want to say at once. But I'm still big on, look, Hunter, my biggest problem is, though, and I know maybe you're more over it than me, but I'm not over it because, again, I'm honestly just distraught at how I don't even think impatience the right word, because my thing is it's gotten to the point where people are just way too like it's clickbait shit, and people get paid from engagements on Twitter nowadays. So people are literally trying to put some food on the table. It's just whoever's going to get the most engagements, right? They win the day. Even if the take looks like shit in 3-4 years, they don't care. But they're immediately putting money in their bank account. And it's gotten to a point where Caleb has become the victim of just the absolute engagement bait, just barrage. And I'm over here asking, like, where's the same energy for CJ Stroud? Like, where's the same energy for Kyler Murray? Especially Kyler Murray. Where's the same energy for a lot of these guys that are making way more than Caleb, that have been in the league longer? And also, where's the energy for the guys that you guys had the energy for at first? Because I like to bring up, and I will keep bringing up over and over again, even over like the last, period of years, Hunter, we don't even have to talk about picks that weren't the first overall pick, right? We go back to Jared Goff. Vividly remember, Jared Goff is dog shit. Jared Goff was the wrong first overall pick. Yeah, that take aged like milk. We can go, and then you can even reverse it, right? Immediately, people were like, oh my God, Baker Mayfield, like, how did teams skip? And then Baker Mayfield goes through that same type of slump that we're seeing right now from CJ Stroud. And again, to Baker's credit, he had the bounce back. But the point is that go figure, Hunter, QB play is very dependent on the situation the team is in and then the situation they give their quarterback. And then, again, 2019, Kyler Murray, 2020, Joe Burrow. Well, Joe Burrow's first year back was not anything incredible. In fact, I even saw a comparison today, side by side, game by game. I know Joe Burrow played a lot less games, but game by game statistics, they're really not they're not a huge difference from each other as far as Caleb and Joe Burrow went. And Joe Burrow with 2 more years of experience than Caleb Williams. And then I'm not done yet, Hunter. We keep going. Trevor Lawrence. It's the same concept where people just don't know what to think because everybody just wants to have a clickbaity opinion. First, Trevor Lawrence was ass. Now Trevor Lawrence was the guy he was always expected to be. And now that the team sucks and Trevor Lawrence he's
ass again.
Trevor Lawrence sucks again. See, it's just always all about the quarterback. And Bryce Young last year. Bryce Young is just dog shit, right? He's so trash. And all of a sudden, he's looking really similar, if not having better moments this year than CJ Stroud. And I know, again, it's sophomore. So I'm not sitting here saying CJ Stroud is bad because that would be just absolutely inept of me. Because I'm not one of you people that, again, I don't go 0 to 100 with how someone is just trash or not trash. I understand circumstances have a play in how quarterbacks play football. So here we are, first year, Caleb Williams. He is, and let me just fact check myself here, Hunter. Hold on a minute. I was going to say, so he's not even 24 years old yet.
He just turned 23. He just turned 23.
And meanwhile, assuming he has like 15 more years to play, best case scenario, right? He's just year 1/15 of his career in here, Hunter, where he's dog shit. And it's just because it's so easy to get clicks. Everybody just, he sucks. And it's just so like, I've never seen anything like it, Hunter. Like I said, if Peyton Manning was around when social media came around, there'd be Colts fans would have been saying bench Manning. We picked the wrong guy. Like, it's a joke. Like, social media has honestly made being like an analyst, it's a joke. It's a joke. Because I already see all of it. And I'm Hunter, I'm at the point, I'm taking notes, right? I'm keeping names. Because it's become very trendy to be like, well, Caleb clearly wasn't the number 1 pick. Like, it's just sit on it. He clearly wasn't the number 1 pick. I'm gonna let those takes age. We're gonna let those takes age. We're gonna revisit them in a couple seasons. And I am, like I said, I wouldn't be riding for Caleb if I wasn't confident. I wasn't doing this for Justin. I was saying that Justin will figure it out, and I had faith that he would at least become productive. I have never said anything about Justin. I said as far as Caleb's ceiling. Caleb's ceiling still is that indefinitely high ceiling. Again, it's at this point though, it is on the Bears to get the right people in the building. But if you're out on Caleb, really though, and I don't say this a lot, I think it's corny. But really, in this case, keep that same energy. Like you've picked your side. If you want to be one of those people where, especially if you're a Bears fan, where we made the wrong pick and it's all over and it's the same thing. Okay, stay on that side though, because when the jerseys start selling and when the playoffs are a thing, and you and everybody same as Josh Allen. I'm sure you feel the same way. The Bills fans, stay on that side as far as that went, because you have a side to pick. If you want to be someone who gives up on someone within their first year when they're one of the youngest quarterbacks in the entire league, just keep that same energy for real.
I think this is where I kind of stand Dobbs. Like, all right, you want to shit on Caleb Williams? Okay, fine. His stats, yes, like the play has not necessarily looked the prettiest at times compared to Jane Daniels and Bo Nix. Like, very obvious. Their teams are run better. They're coached better. They have better offensive lines. But in my opinion, if the stats are similar, and I don't want to hear about the garbage time shit. Like, that's disproven. Like, the reality is, like, he's doing this under horrible circumstances. And I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, I'd rather have that than whatever of course I want it to look better. But he's still doing well. And like, I had this conversation with someone on Twitter the other day, just a couple replies back and forth. I basically said, like, he's doing this in this situation and he's putting up these stats and he's breaking like these Bears quarterback records. And someone replies like, that's not saying much. And I'm like, that's exactly the point. The Bears fans are beggars. Like, we cannot be choosers. This guy has the fourth most yards in a Bears season for a quarterback as a rookie in these circumstances. Now, to the rest of the league, that may not mean much. But Bears fans who are deprived of good quarterback play, that should mean a shit ton to you. And there are fans. And listen, here's my thing. I knew that it was time to move on from Fields. Like, it was very apparent last year, right? And I wanted to believe in Fields. I wanted Fields to be the guy. But the reality is, like, I'm a Bears fan. And I wanted the Bears to lose, but I wanted them to play good, right? Because I wanted a higher draft pick, right? There are people that are actively rooting for Caleb Williams to fail as Bears fans, just to be right. And it's like, it's unreal to me because it's like, yes, I wanted Caleb, but I was never rooting for Justin to like be bad. Like, when he was bad, it was just because he was not very good. And it doesn't make any sense because if the Bears were going to get good compensation for him playing well was the best thing to happen. So I'm real sick of it. And I think it's just become, it's funny, bro. It's funny, bro, because, like, it's even like, not even like from a political standpoint, but when like people fight amongst each other and it's like, in reality, it's the people up top that is screwing everybody. It's like people in the fan base are fighting, but it's like everyone knows the problem is up top. So it's just funny how those things happen. And I want Caleb Williams to succeed. I think he will if they get him an offensive line and the right coach. And that's not to say like Fields had those things. Like, Fields was put in a shitty situation too. The reality is that's what happened, and there's not any fixing it. And it was the right decision to move on. Now, the Bears continue to make the wrong decisions for the future and not set them up to succeed. But the reality is this season's a wash, and you have a culture issue. You have a player issue. You have a GM issue. I've said this before. Line up the coach and the GM, right? Do it this time, right? Because there's all this misalignment. Yes, you're not going to have the quarterback aligned with the coach and the GM. But I promise you, the coach and the GM are probably okay with having Caleb Williams in his second year compared to having, I don't know, any other guy coming in, right? That they're probably looking to move off and get their own guy. Like, coming in, this GM and this coach are probably going to be okay with Caleb Williams. So align it now, because if it's not a good year next year, the picks don't pan out and the culture's bad, you're going to fire the GM, and then you're going to have a new GM with a second-year head coach and a third-year quarterback. It's time to just set the alignment as straight as you can get it, because you don't want to look back and be like, well, I wish I could have did this a year ago, exactly like you did with Flus.
Well, and then again, it shouldn't even be complicated. It's not. It's quite literally like Poles has done nothing besides get incredibly lucky that the Panthers are inept. To literally lay it out as simple as possible, like a math formula. Look, this is what I want to say too, though, where this is a good point I was thinking of when I was driving home earlier. It kind of struck me like this is my biggest problem too with a lot of the narratives right now about the Caleb and the Bears too. Is another thing people will jump to then is when you bring up the fact that the stats are actually just fine, and for a rookie, he's actually playing like far above average. People will be like, but dude, generational rookie year expectations, and the Bears were giving him the best situation possible. It's like, you know how like sometimes things are just clearly wrong and then you just move on and you're like, okay, well, that's what we thought, and like we were so clearly wrong. Like nobody ever wants to play the reversal game with that, Hunter. And I'll give you two examples this year, right? Well, very clearly, a lot of people said Washington's situation is going to suck for Jane Daniels, and he's going to have to kind of really come in and play superhero, and no matter what, the Commanders are probably going to suck. And then with the Broncos, very similarly, yeah, Bo Nix coming in, it's going to be a rough situation. Maybe they can scrape in as like 7-6 wins, but like they're very likely going to be a really bad team, and on paper, they're a really bad team. Well, very clearly, both of those things are completely not true. There's nobody sitting here now saying, well, they're really just two fake good teams. Like they're just, the results don't really mean anything because like really before the season, we thought they were shitty teams. So the results aren't real. That's the exact same game we're playing with the Caleb shit. It's like, well, but dude, this was the best situation ever. It's like, no, very clearly it actually wasn't the best situation ever, and we were bamboozled. The same way in reverse, we were bamboozled about the Broncos and the Commanders, right? The reversal is happening. Like it looked really good on paper. Turns out that the Bears front office is still complete garbage. Turns out that they paid basically all the wrong guys. And turns out that the O-line situation and the offensive coordinator were terrible. So turns out it really was far from the best situation ever for a rookie quarterback, but nobody wants to sit here and say, for some reason, that's just obviously what's happened. It's like, no, it's clearly all Caleb's fault. But then meanwhile, in reversal, the Broncos, they were clearly just good situations all along. And we were just, nobody said it, but it was clearly obvious. Like, come on, guys. There has to be some even ground here where sometimes we have to be able to say, like, despite the fact that something did look good on paper or bad on paper, that's sometimes just not how it goes. It's the National Football League. That's why the games aren't played on paper, Hunter. They're played on the field.
That's what's it's just like I don't have much left to say because what's we're talking about has already been said. I will say that I think the chance Poles is here next year drops significantly after the way things have gone. Because every coach or person he talks up ends up failing. And the reality is, it's just like, you don't like who does Poles have favor with outside of the McCaskies, who ultimately make the decision? But I don't think he's got it with Warren. He doesn't have it with the fans. It's pretty embarrassing what he's put on his record. Like, what is it like outside of like you said, failing upwards into the Carolina trade? What has he done? And this is my last thing. When people talk about trading the number 1 pick and getting the haul, what makes you think Ryan Poles is getting the right players in the picks? Like, what makes you think that's the case? Please tell me.
Well, no, it's a great point, Hunter. And here's another thing I'm going to say. This is just 100% factuals. This is really where it gets frustrating too, because if they bring just hypotheticals, if they bring Poles back next year, again, you name me a situation where it's just more clearly dysfunctional in the front office. I mean, Hunter, I want a little thought activity here, right? What do they call it? A brainstorming activity. Look, you think of all the alpha GMs in the league that really kick ass year after year, right? Khan, DaCosta, Roseman, right? Guys of that nature. Do you think that there's a situation very clearly that the Bears are in where you can tell that, like you said, the word he's neutered by the team president, right? They're not like they have to, their decisions. They're like, what do you think? No, that's the reason that they are the GM. Like they're the ones that pull the trigger the second that something comes up. The fact that Poles isn't that guy already speaks volumes to the problem with the fact that he's the GM. Like he's the GM, but he's not really the GM, Hunter. And the Bears are probably the only team in the league with dysfunction like that. Go figure. Again, back to best situation ever. Yeah, best situation ever where the GM doesn't even make decisions. So this is the point, Hunter. The front office of this team has just been dysfunctional so long. It's time to wipe the slate clean. It's a joke. If your GM can't be the one to pull the trigger without having to go like a little kid to everybody and get their approval,
He shouldn't be your GM.
What's the point of his job? What is he doing?
That's the thing is like it's very apparent that if Poles sticks around, he's going to be like a coffee boy. Like if Ben Johnson is in the building and Kevin Warren is making the ultimate decision, what is the point of you being here? Like get some continuity in the building. Like get someone that you can link up with. Like I don't know, but that's pretty much all I have to say. Dobbs, do you have any final thoughts here?
Final thoughts. Don't win the final week. Let's have another. Let's have another bounce back Caleb game. Let's just see. You know what I'm saying here, Hunter? Let's close out on a good note. But let's lose. Let's keep that tankathon going. Just maybe, somebody who shouldn't win wins.
I think
a little.
Unfortunately,
fact check.
We don't have the tiebreaker with any of the 3-win teams. So as long as we lose to the Packers, we will be picking 7th.
That is best case scenario. I mean, look, so at this point, don't win.
Thank you,
Caleb. I want to. Let's close out on a good note.
Thank you guys
out like we did this yesterday
for watching the Bears over and over again and watching them lose. Like, I think the last thing I want Caleb Williams to go out and have another 300-yard game with 2 touchdowns. And that's all I care about.
No, I mean, at this point, yeah. And look, here's the final thing too. Like if you stay in the 7th slot, honestly, like we're saying 7 to 9, it's not a huge jump, but like Hunter, it's a big enough jump that you might be able to get one maybe guy a little more premier than. And I don't know, but again, Will Campbell's still probably the guy, but I don't know. You might. It's just tough though because like you go D-line again back to the whole. It's just Khalil Mack 2.0.
Yeah,
you got to go O-line. I'm sorry, you have to. I don't know. You got to go O-line. You got to go best case scenario. We're gonna see again. A lot of things can change come combine. We'll have a lot of draft talk coming soon enough. I guess that's the best case scenario, Hunter. That's the good news. So, very soon, Bears fans, we will finally be able to get
to the fun part of the Bears season every year, the off season,
the hypothetical bowl. But we're getting close, Hunter. We're right there.
Thank you guys so much for watching the Bear Cave. We will be live multiple times a week. If you want to follow us for more content, follow us at the Bear Cave 1920 on all platforms. We're going to be doing some more fun things in the off season, mock drafts, mock free agencies, things like that. Just want to get the season over with. Obviously head coaching talk and everything like that. So have a great rest of your night if you can, and we'll talk to you next week.